Hello, my name's Kirk Miller, and today we're going to cover something that is not always taught properly and is very important, and just with a few little nuances can make a big difference in keeping your violin in tune, makes things easier. So we're going to replace some strings today. Now this one, typically, this is a little violin here, and usually I leave all four strings on. I always start with the G string. The reason I do this is I do it in order. So I do the G, and then I do the E string, then the D string, and then the A string. The reason I do this is you can see here, they go in order. So if you start with this one back here, and then we move up to this peg here, or the middle one here, then the other string is getting in the way. So by doing it in the right order, you save yourself some time and you make things a little bit easier. So usually you want to make sure you keep pressure down on here so the sound post doesn't fall over. Granted, that doesn't typically happen, but if it does, it's not very fun. So with this, I'm going to just simply remove the G string. So the first step is just to kind of take this string out. And you can see right there, once it was loose, it just kind of popped out. So this is the first thing. A lot of times this string is in decent shape. It's pretty old string. A lot of times I will actually wrap them up and save an older one. One habit that people have, and you can see I have a whole set of strings here for this instrument. And we're going to start with our G string. So what I'll do is I'll take out the newer string and I'll put in the older one. Now the reason I do this is that you never know when you might need an extra string, so this is really helpful. So once I close this up, typically I'll just write down the date, whatever the date might be. So you can put in the date, and then I put in like an old G string. Now, sorry, I'm rushing with my handwriting, that's horrible, but I'll kind of leave a note. The reason you put the date is then you know when you replaced your strings, which can be very helpful. So now we have a brand new G string sitting here. So there's a couple things that are very useful to have. One, a mechanical pencil. Tweezers are sometimes very helpful. And then the third thing would be what we call peg composite. Sometimes they refer to it as peg goo. There's different other names for it, but the technical term is peg composite. One thing I've seen quite a bit online is when somebody's peg is slipping, they will suggest to use chalk, or if it needs to slide easier, they'll use soap. Please don't use that stuff. It's going to damage the wood long term. You want to purchase something that's actually made for the wood. So first thing we do, take out the peg, and you can see there's a couple little lines here where you can tell the wood is rubbing. So right there, we need to just kind of put this peg composite over the top. It'll help it slide, and it also conditions the wood. So I'm just going to do this little dash. You don't need much, just a little bit. And you can see I just kind of go across it. And again, if you miss a spot, don't worry. It's going to turn and it'll be there anyway. It's also, this will not harm anything, and you can always wipe off any excess once you get it done. It needs a little bit more there. Okay, so once we have that, then we're just going to slide this in, and you don't need to press it all the way in yet. That's enough for right now. So then kind of cap this off. This is a very important part. So when you're putting on new strings, we don't want to break a brand new string. So what I'm going to use is this mechanical pencil, and the reason for that is this is graphite, so which is a good lubricant. It'll keep the metal from getting caught, because these are wrapped strings. So if the string gets caught here, you just put on a brand new string and you already stripped it, and then you need to buy a new one. So what I do is just take the pencil and just kind of go back and forth, and you can do this as much as you want. This is not going to harm the wood or the violin. A lot of violin makers actually use a pencil to mark the violins, typically up around in these areas, so they can keep track. So you want to put enough on so that you see some kind of powder from the graphite, and that's more than enough there. You can see it's slightly shiny, which is what we want. And this is the other place you do it too, is on the bridge, because we have two contact points here, and both of them we want the string to slide pretty easily on. Now with this one, near the bridge, same thing, it's not going to harm anything. You want to be gentle about how you do it, and you just keep going back and forth, and just let that graphite kind of come off and fall into place. And as it starts looking a little shinier, and you'll also feel it, it'll get a little slick. So once you have that done, that's pretty much the hardest part. Well, at least a couple of them. These are easy to forget. Small little details that make a big difference. Before I put this string on, these are Piastro strings. We can go with less expensive strings, and a lot of times people want to save the extra money. The reason I prefer at least middle of the road strings is because you don't want really thin strings that are going to cut down through this bridge, because replacing a bridge is really expensive. So a nicer string actually ends up saving you money in the long run. So then once we have this, we're just going to remove this, and honestly, typically I take a little bit more care than this, but I'm going to slide this G string out, and you can see it's a nice thick string, and it actually comes with a little guard for the G string. This we don't need, because this is a pretty thick string, and you can see it's plenty big for this. It's not going to damage the bridge. So this I'm actually going to remove if it will let me. Yep. So I'm just going to pull that off, and I typically save these for later, because a lot of times if you do have thin strings, it's nice to have those. So once you have this in place, you're going to just slide this through, and I'll make this as easy as I can for you to see. So once I put the string in, I typically rotate it back a little bit so I can get some to slide through. It's a little hard to see right now because of the color here, but let me turn this. So once you do this, I have not pressed the peg in yet, and you can see the string, how that is come out. What I want to do is kind of lock this in place. So it's kind of like tying a knot. Now what I do is I have it a nice grip on this. This will keep that string from slipping out. Okay, so then we hold this towards the peg. So hold the string towards the peg. A lot of times you can just slide this part in, and it's not necessary to do this first, but it does work. And then what you do is you just hold the tension here. So by holding the tension against the peg box, now we start pushing in a little bit, and you'll notice it will start wrapping up against the side. Okay, so typically I want to have this more like that. There we go. Is that better to see? Okay, so now as I turn this, I'm going to try to do this backwards. Let's see how well I can do this. So from this angle, you can see how the string's starting to wrap up, and it's pulling, it's acting like a wedge, so that this peg isn't going to start spinning back on us, okay? And it will continue to wrap up against the side of the peg box, and that's exactly what we want. And then you can see as this starts kind of getting to this point, and we kind of relax, let the string, now we don't need to worry anymore, okay? So this part, you just kind of put the string in both places, so on both contact points, and we're almost done. So we're just going to continue to tighten this, and notice the peg's not slipping back. So even if I pull on this, it's not pulling back. So this acted like a wedge holding the peg in place. That can be one of the most frustrating things when you're replacing strings, is having it constantly slip. So then as we now have the string on there, and you can see both contact points were protected. It slid really easily in there, and we don't have it rolling back on us. So typically with nicer strings, you want them always wrapped against the peg box. So this one here was long enough, because this is a smaller instrument, that it kind of rewrapped, but this will hold it in place. So those are a couple tips. So one more time, just for review, you want to take off the old string. Typically save it. Mark down the date so you know when you replace this string. You want to take out the peg, put peg composite on the peg. Avoid chalk, avoid soap, or other things that people might possibly mention. Just go with a professional peg composite. Then graphite on both contact points. So the bridge and this is actually the nut of the violin. So both of these points. And then once you get that, put it through, make sure you wrap it so the string is caught. Then when you start winding it, you want to hold this against or towards the peg. And as you do that, it'll kind of wrap on its own, put some pressure in, keep it tight, and then you don't have to worry about this changing or spinning back on you. So that's at least an introduction in putting on strings. If you would like any more videos, or if you'd like me to string a full violin, please let me know, and I'd be happy to make more videos, including any other questions you might have. So thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.